talk skills, masculinity, we talk about culture, pop culture, 80s cartoon culture, and anything else that comes up. Joining me as always is Brandon.
Hello, my people.
Kale.
Hello.
And Jim.
Everybody.
Everybody's in different squares than normal. Everything is chaos. We're here to finish off our 80s cartoons. We're going to talk about 1988 and 1989. Getting towards the end of my cartoon watching. Well, this type of cartoon watching. I think we're a little past what Jim had been watching at the time because he's incredibly old.
Incredibly old.
Kale and Brandon are fairly old, but not incredibly old. And so we've still got a few cartoons that they've seen in there, I believe. Is that correct?
Kinda. It definitely is getting less.
But before we talk cartoons, let's talk drinking. Jim, what do you have tonight?
I have a gin and tonic with a splash of triple sec and a splash of sport.
Fair enough. Brandon?
I am having some cold brew with some vanilla creamer and some bourbon.
Fair enough. Kale?
Tito's OJ.
Keeping it classy.
Tito's vodka.
Well, I would just say we are at the beginning of March. Well, you guys are going to see this not at the beginning of March, when we're filming this at the beginning of March. And it is a rare time in the wintertime when it is warm and wet outside. So I thought I would have something cold and dry. And so I'm going with a martini. Now, just real quickly before we dive in, the one thing I think is an interesting little boundary we're getting ready to cross, because we've done the 80s. At some point in the future, we might talk 90s, although I don't think we'll probably do year by year the way we did this time. And I feel like there's an interesting thing that's happened with cartoons where they're kind of growing up with us, where as we move on, especially into the early 90s, we get Batman and we get the X-Men TV show, which have much more adult type themes. And it's strange because I feel like Batman and X-Men and some of the, even Eek the Cat to some degree. I don't think you could have those shows in the early 80s for younger kids because they wouldn't have gotten them. And so I wonder if when people look back, they're going to see cartoons as sort of our generation kind of a thing, like a Gen X to,
Beavis and Butthead.
Well, right. And then into Beavis and Butthead, obviously later in the 90s. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
So I think that's a really interesting point. I think, honestly, if you look at these 2 years, it seems like these are almost an aberration because I feel like there's a lot of cartoons on here that are kind of throwback to younger kids shows like Chippendale.
But then there's also, I feel like, some shows on here that are sort of looking forward into the 90s that are sort of a little bit more adult themed. I think these are two kind of strange years. Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, what's probably the biggest one that'll continue and be adult themed? Probably Simpsons, I suppose.
And so I wasn't planning on talking about The Simpsons, and I'll tell you why.
Which isn't Saturday morning.
Right. Well, it's not Saturday morning. It's not really a kid's show. It kind of becomes sort of a kid show later on, or becomes a family kind of show, everybody show. But I don't really feel like it fits in. I feel like we could definitely talk about The Simpsons. But I don't really feel like it kind of fits in with the theme of what we're talking about. And it sort of just comes in at the very, very end of the 80s. So we'll be skipping over the Simpsons, and you can feel free in the comments to tell us why we are terrible people for skipping The Simpsons, which is clearly the greatest show that has ever been made.
And obviously, in an earlier show, we established is the only cartoon theme song that I can remember.
Yes. You just turn all theme songs are just sort of turned into The Simpsons.
I try to do other theme songs and it becomes a Simpsons.
Well, and it's the beginning of 90s cartoons, really, and 90s cartoons really do kind of go down this more adult type of thing. You get into like your Beavis and Butthead and Space Ghost, and the Saturday morning cartoon aspect kind of goes away, and you get like definitely harder themes.
And to be clear, Space Ghost Coast to Coast is in the 90s, not the original Space Ghost, which is in the Space Ghost, what, like late 60s, I think?
Yeah.
Jim, does that sound right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the more adult themes, this is one that I love this show as a kid, and I've sort of gone back through and looked it up a little bit, and I think it's strange, and that is Cops.
Cops, central organization of police specialists, fighting crime in a future time.
Which oddly enough came before sort of the famous 90s reality we use reality with heavy scare quotes, show Cops on Fox. And it was just called Cop, except I remember there
Did it
was
really?
dots.
When did the show start?
So this started in 88. Cops started, I think, in 89 or 90. I'm not sure exactly. But this show started first. And by the way, I love how they acronymize Cops. It is the Central Organization of Police Specialists, which I'm guessing somebody took a full 3.5 minutes to come up with that acronym. They're like, well, we need to call the show Cops, but let's acronym it. So Central Organization of Police Specialists. Sure, that works.
Well, I wonder if they didn't acronym it for a reason. My parents back in the 80s thought Cops was derogatory.
Well, it
They're supposed
was
to become
originally Cops
Police
was
officer or
derogatory.
whatever.
It's because it's in for copper, for the badge, and so people would call people coppers. It was like a derogatory term for a police officer, and so yeah, originally it was kind of derogatory. It's a pretty. I mean, go ahead, Kale.
Like a flat foot or a gumshoe.
I don't think gumshoe is necessarily derogatory, but I'm not sure. But copper definitely was. If you watch old movies, like Abbott and Costello movies, you'll see Costello. Lou accidentally calls a police officer a copper, and it's treated like he just said something very, very offensive, which I think is kind of funny because now cops call themselves cops. It's
But the Rozzers,
nope.
the Fuzz,
Is that
5-0 one time
or something?
Eggs.
So overall, the show's, I mean, it's again, a very simple 80s cartoon theme song. You have a series of good cops that all have names and action figures, and the series of criminals that also have, crazy names and action figures as well. My favorite one, I think, is Misdemeanor. I just think that's good. That's solid. That's a solid. Although I'll tell you what, they have Misdemeanor, which is very clever, and then Dr. Bad Vibes, which isn't clever at all.
Well, I think it had a black guy as the chief, didn't it?
It did. He's Agent Baldwin P. Bulletproof Vest. Get it? Because it's a bulletproof vest, and his name sounds like Elliot Ness.
Okay.
And there was one cop that had he could shoot handcuffs at people.
And what was he, of course, called?
Uh-uh.
Long Arm.
Yeah.
Obviously. What else would he be
Long
called?
arm of the law. Love it.
And there's like a guy who's like the helicopter pilot is like a redneck kind of crazy guy. I can't think of his name.
Murdoch.
Oh, the one with no sleeves.
No sleeves.
Yeah, there's somebody with no sleeves and a cowboy hat.
No sleeves till Brooklyn.
That's right.
It's funny you bring up the Beastie Boys. We'll run into the Fat Boys later on.
Oh yeah, they had a cartoon.
Well, no, not their cartoon. A little bit different. But and then the boss was Brandon. There we have an evil Brandon. Brandon Big Boss Babble, which is not a particularly clever name. It's just, I don't know. That's fine, I guess, but whatever. And then Rock Crusher, and then a guy just named Berserko. So it's like they really pick and choose where they're going with the clever names and where they're just going to be like, let's call him Berserko. It's like, oh, I guess, sure, why not?
So I was still reading a lot of comic books at this point, and I did not realize there was a Cops comic book by DC.
Well, I think they had come out with the figures first, and then they came out with the television show and the comics to sell them because that's where and it's sort of interesting. If you go to a lot of other countries, this type of stuff they can't show on television. Because a lot of countries have rules on what you can show during kids programming. In fact, in the United States, they had rules on that stuff too, like what you could advertise, which is sort of why a lot of this stuff exists, because they couldn't just have just straight commercials. They had to have like educational things. And so they would come up with a cartoon show that just happened to have figures that you could buy at your local, Alco or whatever we had before Walmart took over the entire earth.
Alco was awesome.
Amida.
Pomida. We had a Pomida and an Alco and Boone, and Alco went out of business before Walmart. Alco went out of business when they said there was going to be a Walmart. Like, it didn't even survive the announcement. I think Pomida survived for I don't know. You guys didn't grow up in Boone. I think Pomida maybe lasted for a year or so, maybe not even that long.
It was longer than that.
Was it longer than a year?
Yeah, it's where that Trilite company was. It was there for a little while.
I thought that was where Alco was.
I think that was Promida, but I'm not
How
positive.
tall was the big brown building?
Wait, that's well, we're gonna get into local geography that nobody cares about.
Right.
But yeah. Other than that, again, I don't have a ton to say, but it was a fun. I remember being a fun show. Bulletproof vests, Agent Baldwin bulletproof vest. He was just a big, strong, like big tough guy, cop guy, and he was, bulletproof, as the name would imply. Yeah, just a fun kind of breezy thing. Although it does sort of make you think, we talk a lot of politics on here. It does make you think when they develop shows like this, that it kind of plants that in your brain. Because I know Brandon, you and I think to maybe a lesser extent, but certainly also had sort of certain feelings about police when we were younger that we were sort of realized were not true as we got older.
You know who was weirdly right most of the time through the 90s? It was Mikey.
Don't even say that. I'm not going to accept that as an answer, even if it is true.
We're gonna bring him in on the wrestling stuff, so you might as well get used to it.
Fair enough. I'm trying to think if there's any big name. I don't think there was any really, really huge people that we sort of know really well. Elizabeth Hanna played Mirage, and she had done a bunch of other cartoon stuff in the 80s, but that's about it. Anybody have anything final to say about Cops? I think, was I the only one who watched this show?
I watched it a little bit, and it was on the compilation of opening 80s theme songs that Colson and I listened to for a while.
Honestly, I don't think this is a very good opening theme song. I think it's a little weak. Like I was playing a bunch of these theme songs again to kind of remind myself about them. And this was definitely on the low end of one. It's mainly just talking and kind of like a little bit of song behind it. It's sort of interesting the way some cartoon shows really just like committed to having like a big theme song. Like I feel like Gummy Bears did it. Obviously G.I. Joe and Transformers did it. You could probably go back and forth on whether G.I. Joe or Transformers did it better. I think they were both, who cares? They're both really good. And then some of them were just like, let's just tell the story of the cartoon in the opening theme, and that'll just kind of be the theme song.
Doesn't it go like da 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 da?
It's very close. It's very close.
Yeah, you nailed it.
You're
Right
like
on.
90% on.
It's like I was there.
Now the next one was one that was on I guess it was on Nickelodeon. I thought this was on Disney, but I guess it was on Nickelodeon. And that's Count Duckula.
In the heart of Transylvania, in the Vampire Hall of Fame, yeah, there's not a vampire any other.
And I don't know about you guys, but I get my ducks confused. I can't keep my ducks in a row, you might say. So I sort of get Count Duckula confused with Darkwing Duck. And then I remember that Darkwing Duck was funny and I didn't care about Count Duckula very much.
I'm not sure I could tell you I ever saw Count Duckula. I mean, I know what he looks like, but I'm not sure I saw a cartoon.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised because he's a spin-off of Danger Mouse, which I think I was the only one who saw a couple episodes of Danger Mouse. But I mean, you kind of get it from the name. He's a vampire and he's a duck, so he's Count Duckula. Get it?
Seems like he'd be easy to pick out. Look, it's the only duck with teeth. Run away.
You know, you make a fair point. You make a fair point. Maybe he just walks around with this all the time. But then he'd be like, why is that one duck got his face over his beak or his hand over his beak?
Wearing a mask.
Wing, his whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe he does go around all like that, but it's his cape.
I mean, a duck wearing a cape is kind of standing out too, but
I think Count Duckula is pretty much screwed. I don't think he really has a leg to stand, a flipper to stand on, a webbed foot to stand on. It had a pretty good opening theme though, as I remember.
So was this a Disney property? Or do I just think that they own the ducks?
The thing is, it's tough to ask that question because it's like, does Disney own it now or did they own it then? I don't think they owned it then, but I mean, now they own like half the cartoons in the world.
Right.
Like there's even some really big stuff that I was kind of surprised to find out. Well, I mean, they own the GoBots.
What?
Yeah, they own the GoBots, which is kind of crazy. what can you do? At the time, they were owned by Nickelodeon. I don't know who owns Nickelodeon now. I'll bet it's Disney. Stand by. They're Paramount. So it's, if you don't know anything about how the studio system sort of works, is basically right now you have Warner Brothers, which is huge, and Walt Disney that is huge, and then you have like Paramount and Universal that are kind of small. You used to have MGM, but they were bought by Amazon because, of course, they did. And I think there's some speculation that Apple will eventually end up buying either Universal or Paramount at some point. So
Probably Paramount.
it'd be interesting. I mean, I have Paramount Plus just for Star Trek stuff because I love Star Trek. And yeah,
I can't picture the Paramount logo without hearing Crow say, I give this movie 37 stars.
I was watching a video. Somebody was talking about MST earlier today. So yeah, I guess we don't have a heck of a lot to say about Count Duckula. The next one, I don't have a lot to say about it, but I think it's very important just due to the theme. We were just talking about theme songs. And if there's one show that sets itself apart by theme song alone, it is Denver the Last Dinosaur. That song has a banging theme song. Really, really good theme song. I feel like somebody actually sat down and wrote that, which most theme songs just sound like there was like, okay, write 3 chords and kind of play them into the synthesizer and now say the plot of the, cartoon over it. And that's the theme song. Denver, the Last Dinosaur. He's my friend and a whole lot more. I take it.
A whole lot more.
Don't make it sexual. Don't make it sexual.
Honestly, I've never heard of it.
No idea what you're talking about.
I mean, again, it's sort of a lot of these shows are very formulaic. It's a kid who's playing with his friends. They're playing in the park and they trip over a thing and there's a dinosaur egg and a dinosaur hatches out and the dinosaur hatches and his name is Denver and he's the last dinosaur. Hilarity ensues.
Oh, that changes everything.
And I mean, it is very formulaic.
Of course, the dinosaur can speak English.
Well, obviously. His
And
name
it's
is
not
Denver.
sad that he's going to die alone.
I mean,
The last dinosaur.
he would have been laid way before English was a thing, but sure.
Well,
I mean, you
Or
don't
humans.
you don't watch Star Wars and wonder how every other alien knows how to speak English, do you?
They do give a reason for that, though.
they give a reason for it in Star Trek. I don't know if they give a reason for it in Star Wars. Well, in Star Wars, I think some people just know and some people don't know. In Star Trek, they definitely give a reason for it.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't know.
There's the universal translator. In fact, if you watch we're just going to stock Star Trek.
Are you talking about the thing you put in your ear?
No, that's
no.
the Babelfish from.
Yeah, that's the Babelfish. No, in Star Trek, there's a universal translator. In fact, if you watch Star Trek Enterprise, which you should because it's a great show, they sort of show the beginnings of the universal translator. And in Star Trek Enterprise, the universal translator is like always screwing up, so they never really know what people are saying exactly, which I think is kind of cool. And this show, just as far as voice cast, it's not a ton of people that I know a lot, except for one person that we know a little bit, who is Frank Welker, who does a voice that he became known as very well, which is additional voices. He was very famous for additional voices.
Sums up his whole career.
Does that mean like he did 20 characters and I just don't feel like listing it?
That's usually what it is. It also had Pat Fraley, who did a whole bunch of stuff. He was Krang in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He was in Box Trolls. It's kind of random stuff, but just one of those people who's just in a million things. His voice credits are, let's see here, 221 voice credits, so he got around.
I had the Box Trolls in 3D.
3D?
Yeah.
By the way, 3D then sucked even worse than it sucks now, where it was just like the red and the blue thing. And it was like, oh, it kind of looks like maybe something's different, I guess. I remember when I was a kid, my dad took me to Disneyland in California, and we went on that Captain Nemo, you know, the Michael Jackson thing at Disneyland. And it was like, oh, there's like a thing that flies out at you. And it's like, that's pretty.
It's EO.
Captain EO. It could be.
And yet, I thought the T2 3D at Universal was pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I've never been to either of those places.
They have like the T1 million or whatever it's called, and it's got pincers, and you can kind of see it coming at you from the side.
You know, it wasn't until my 40s that I finally realized that 3D didn't work for me.
Oh, really?
Just gives me a headache. Everything's still kind of blurry.
I feel like the new 3D is better and worse at the same time because nothing jumped. Like you can see that the field is being 3D, but nothing really jumps out at you. And also, after you've sort of gotten over it, you're like, this doesn't really adding anything. Like it makes the screen seem a little bit deeper, and that's about it. But you know, what do I know?
Are they still doing a lot of 3D movies, or did they give up on that? I feel like I don't even know. Because I stopped going.
It was a fad for a while. The glasses are a pain in the ass. You go through batteries way too fast. And they're not very sturdy, so like the little arms break off all the time.
I think we won't have another like big 3D craze until we can do it glassless, where people can just go because like as somebody with glasses, like trying to wear 3D glasses over your regular glasses sucks. Every movie is twice as dark as it normally is, and it's just it's no fun.
Somebody will figure out how to hook up like the Oculus Rift to a movie.
Well, I mean, they're already doing some. I mean, you can see some VR movies. I think they're making them. It's just not really the, not really the standard right now.
Need interactive holograms. That's what we
need. I go back to my Star Trek: The Next Generation holodeck background. Anyway, the next one was a big one, and I like this cartoon a lot. Although I'm torn about this cartoon a little bit, and that is Garfield and Friends.
Come on in, it's time to party with Garfield and Friends. Garfield and Friends.
And I think that Garfield and Friends is one that I think everybody watched because it wasn't necessarily a kid's cartoon. I mean, I think it was kid oriented, but it was also a lot of just Garfield strips, and I think adults would watch it and stuff like that. So, what was your guys' experience with Garfield? You don't have to talk just about the cartoon, like even the strip.
So I watched this one a little bit. I liked it all right. I still enjoyed the comic strip more. But,
I thought he and John both were pretty funny.
Yeah, I thought the voices were really good on this.
Yeah, that's how I pictured John's voice.
Lorenzo Music famously was the one who did the voice for Garfield. Of course, our friend Frank Welker could not be left out of this when he played Bo. I don't remember who Bo was.
Like the pig or the sheep? No, the sheep.
Was the sheep? That would make sense. I guess like Bo Peep. I don't. Did you guys like the farmhouse stuff? I always felt like I kind of suffered through the farmhouse to get back to Garfield.
No, I
like
hated
the farmhouse
stuff.
I don't know. I was always just like, I didn't hate it, but I was just kind of like, I don't really need this. I could just do like 2 extra Garfield strips.
I think I went and got cereal or went to the bathroom or something.
And I'm sure they probably did it because, it's, you only have to film X amount, or, you only have to draw so many Garfields. It kind of reduces the pressure on them and reduces the pressure on the voice cast a little bit.
I thought it was kind of early lead into Animaniacs.
Animaniacs would be an interesting discussion because it's weird because you're older than me, but you like Animaniacs better, and I'm younger, and I like, what was the one that was like the same thing except a few years earlier? Tiny Toons.
I like Tiny Toons too.
Yeah, but I thought you were much more of an Animaniacs fan.
I don't know that they're really in competition, but
this is capitalism, Brandon. Everything is in competition. There must be
winners.
Animaniacs
is better.
Animaniacs is better.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got Pinky in the Brain. It already wins.
Right.
But
Animaniacs or Tiny Toons?
What are we doing tonight, Brain?
Kale, Animaniacs or Tiny Toons?
I think he just answered you. The same thing we do every night. Attempt to take over the world. So
I don't know.
I brought up cereal. I feel like I have to ask, what's everybody's Saturday morning go-to cereal in the 80s, or did you all have to eat Cheerios like losers?
No, it was worse for me than Cheerios. There was like a 3-month period where I was forced to eat grape nuts the entire time.
You know what? I kind of like grape nuts.
You are wrong.
I can't do it.
I have a texture issue, man. I love crunchy stuff.
Crackling Oat Bran.
You know what? That is highly underrated.
What can I say? I was a kid, and I love being a kid, and I had Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Sugar Smacks. Sugar Smacks were great.
We did have some Crunch Berries.
And Sugar Smacks became Honey Smacks.
That's right, they did. They did. Probably because they didn't want to advertise their cereals just being sugar. It's like, here's some sugar you can put in milk.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna disagree on the Crunch Berries. Crunch Berries are nasty. Keep them out of my cereal. I like my Captain Crunch Pure.
So it
Captain
makes
Crunch is probably my go-to.
Peanut butter Captain Crunch was way up.
I would eat
love
all
peanut
the
butter.
yellow parts first so I could save the Crunch Berries for later.
Oh wow!
Spoken like a true OCD, and I did the same thing.
Have
with,
you
with
ever
actually
been
with
in
Lucky
Steve-
Charms. Lucky, I
you
would
run on the
trade eat
outside
all
of the Pop-Tart first.
I would trade eat all of the.
I am
of the-
definitely not OCD. I just love Crunch Berries.
I would trade eat all like the cereal part of the Lucky Charms so that I would just like have a bowl of marshmallows at the end.
That's awesome.
And I am OCD, so that definitely works for me.
Has anyone been in Cedar Rapids during Crunch Berry Day?
No, I used to live in Cedar Rapids though.
It used to be Thursdays. I worked downtown for a couple of summers, and when I worked there, Thursdays was Crunch Berry Day, and you could smell the difference in the air.
Well, I know that Cedar Rapids definitely has a distinct odor.
Very distinct.
I like the little bohemian area in the Czech Village.
Yeah, Newbo's nice, and Czech Village is nice. It's just funny. We're not going to get into local Iowa shit. We could talk about that. We should do an episode on Iowa sometime. Just talk about the places we've been around here. We can, But
I could do it.
Sounds
Back to-
fascinating. I'll watch that 5 times.
Back to Garfield real quick. Did anybody ever read the strip without Garfield where they just removed him and it was just John kind of like talking to himself?
yeah, and it's like the saddest thing in the world. It's just like a guy who
It's
just talks to nothing
weird. Yeah.
and just looks
Yeah.
sad.
And then sometimes he looks like somebody insulted him, but nothing happened. He looks like mad. It's
Yeah, that's very good. I would highly recommend that. Yeah, it was good. I think they did the Garfield strips really well. I always felt like they were going to the barnyard animals, and I didn't care about them.
Jim Davis. Is that the guy's name?
Yeah, Jim Davis. Oh, this is interesting. So creator Jim Davis originally wanted to make a series based on his comic strip US Acres, but CBS insisted that Garfield be made the star of the series. You kind of understand that. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like if you're Jim Davis and you go to a network and be like, hey, I've got this cartoon strip about these farm animals that tell jokes. And it's like, you've also got Garfield.
Right.
And we could do a cartoon.
Tell us
show
more about
that.
Garfield.
What about the animals? It's like, yeah. But Garfield, the biggest comic book strip in the country. What about that? So if you guys had to choose between Garfield strips and Calvin and Hobbes strips, which one would you read?
Oh, Calvin and Hobbes. He's
Hands down, Calvin and Hobbes.
Really? I guess I was more of a Garfield guy. I think Calvin and
it's
Hobbes
really not even close.
that Calvin and Hobbes is really influential for a lot of people. There's a lot of people that like that's like the reason they got into doing comics and that type of stuff. So
It was my bedside reading. Like I had like 4 or 5 of those books for a long time.
I had a lot of Garfield strips, like tons. And then when I got older, you kind of got me into Dilbert a little bit. And now
Yeah.
Scott Adams is a lunatic, which is fun.
Yeah.
So my best friend had like a ton of Garfield books, and I had a bunch of Farside books. So Farside was my go-to.
I never got Farside at all. I never understood it. Like I would read those strips when I was a kid and be like, I don't get it. What do you mean?
But then you went on to read stuff like Red Meat and The Parking Lot is Full.
Oh man, Parking Lot is Full is great. And nobody knows what it is. There's a little online strip. You can still find it if you look for it, but Red Meat was great too. I don't know, there's
Red
I
Meat's
feel
kind
like
of insane.
huh?
Red Meat's kind of insane.
Yeah, it's Red Meat's its own. Well, PLI Parking Lot is Full has some pretty bizarre stuff too. I think Kale's favorite is Batman versus the Steak. it just shows Batman sitting at a table with a knife and fork and, a steak in front of him, and he's saying, "This is a battle I must win."
The steak's going down.
I like the one where the caption was games that aren't any fun. And it's a bunch of kids and there's a stick in the middle of the table. And one of the kids is like, you roll a 3, you have to eat the stick now. And they're correct. That does not sound like a game that is any fun.
Is it still there?
Yeah.
All right. I pulled up some trivia, but I don't really think a lot of that's that funny. So I'm not going to read it. So the next show, we're going to talk very briefly about this one, but I think the next 2 shows I kind of want to talk about together a little bit. And I think we might have mentioned it a little bit in a previous episode. I think we talked about it with Rambo a little bit, but these may be more so than anything else. The first is the Police Academy cartoon series.
Police Academy. Hey, somebody forgot to dot the I.
I'll fix it.
Police Academy, the series.
Hooray!
Did you any of you guys watch this? I honestly didn't really know this was on until later. I think maybe I heard about this in like the early to mid or late 90s or mid 90s or something like that.
I did not watch
The
this at all.
Police Academy cartoon?
Yeah,
Sorry,
the Police
go.
Academy cartoon. I never knew. I definitely didn't know it was on in the 80s.
Yeah. No, me neither. Until I saw it on the list, I didn't know it was ever a cartoon.
Yeah, I don't think it has any of the same cast or anything. At least not that I've seen. It does have. Oh, this is interesting. It does have Dan Hennessy, who I believe went on to be in Robocop, which is the other cartoon we're going to talk about. So just kind of hold on the veil. So Police Academy, the cartoon, and Robocop, the cartoon. Dan Hennessy went on to play Robocop in Robocop. And this is sort of that weird thing in the 80s where they would take something that was very clearly an adult property. I mean, if you watched, especially the first Police Academy movie, I mean, it's a raunchy comedy. It's sort of akin to what today would be like, your Hangovers or your Hot Tub Time Machines or something like that. It's a comedy that is a hard R, a lot of language, a lot of nudity, that type of stuff. And they would just make cartoons out of it for kids. And I just think that's so bizarre looking back. I mean, especially Robocop, a movie that I think is, one of the most genius films of the 1980s, but it is clearly not meant for kids. I mean,
Clearly.
that movie had to get trimmed for an X rating, or to get trimmed to not get an X rating due to violence, which is something they used to do. Although interestingly enough, what they did in Robocop, you could do on The Walking Dead now on, expanded cable, which is crazy. So what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about the idea of taking adult properties and turning them into kids' cartoons?
I just don't really understand. It seems like there's enough kid stuff to make for kids. Like I don't get it. I mean, it's something that I talk to my kids about too. Like, enjoy kid stuff while you're a kid, because you don't ever get to be a kid again. So
Maybe
I don't.
it's just part of that. Sorry.
No,
I was
go
just
ahead.
going to say maybe part of that just never-ending expansion of fucking, you got to sell more shit, so take this stuff and sell it to the kids now.
Well, I think with Robocop, there's something sort of beautifully poetic about that. The idea that in Robocop, it is sort of a parody of modern American capitalism, and then it gets turned into a TV show for kids, which is exactly what would happen in the universe of Robocop. And so I kind of love that. But Brandon, what do you think?
It's a weird thing to do. I mean, I can see if you're turning a show into not a parody of itself, but a parody of kid shows that adults are meant to watch. I can kind of see, that's kind of a space ghosty coast to coast thing to do, but or like Archer or something. But yeah, it's weird to because eventually, say if Coulson ever saw the RoboCop cartoon, he'd want to see the movie. I can't show him that. Not now. Not right now.
You could probably show him Robocop 3. Robocop 3 is super tame. But definitely not 1 or 2, because
So I feel like
Yeah.
there's some that I kind of understand, like the Ghostbusters. Like Ghostbusters movie isn't for kids, but I don't know. I can see somebody going,
It
"Hey,
isn't specifically for adults either, and it would be an easy one to choose. I mean, making Slimer just your fun hang around pal.
Also, having Dan Aykroyd not get a blowjob from a ghost. Maybe cut that out as well.
ho 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 ho, slow down now."
It's in the movie. It's there. It exists.
It's implied. It's
Earmuffs.
implied.
It is very implied. The ghost literally unzips his pants and his head goes back like this. What do they think is happening? She's giving him a crotch bath or no?
You're gonna get an X rating on this episode for saying crotch bath.
Well, that's the name of my new band.
That's the word crotch. Who says crotch?
One thing, so Jim, you brought up the idea that Cops was made into a comic book series by DC. So of course, Police Academy, the cartoon, was brought in as a comic book series by Marvel.
If that's unbelievable. I mean, seriously, that's awful.
It's the least surprising thing in the world.
So speaking of crotch bath, my son's been giving me a hard time with the name of our podcast.
Hard time.
I'm gonna
Your crotch.
suggest we change it to crotch bath.
I'm just gonna sip my gin.
Makes me think of Jack Nicholson going, kids that complain should shampoo my crotch.
Maybe it could be intoxicated crotch bath.
Well, that's usually
The
when
only
you
way
get
to
them.
do it.
I feel like this is going down a dark path.
And in case anybody was wondering, Commandant Lassard's goldfish is now canonically named Finnegan. So when you go back and you rewatch the Police Academy movies, which I'm sure we all do at least once or twice a year, you can know the goldfish is Finnegan. Does everybody feel,
Sweet.
like they've learned a little bit here?
I can rest easier tonight.
You hear that and you're just like, God, I always wondered. And by the way, we talked earlier about the Beastie Boys. The theme song for the Police Academy was done by the Fat Boys, which if you were alive in the 80s, they were just a fun little, like, right, exactly. They're just a fun, like, rap group. They had a movie where they were orderlies, I think.
Disorder.
Disorderlies. Yeah, disorderlies. I don't know. It's just like, I don't know.
I completely forgot about them.
Yeah, a lot of people probably did. I think one of them's like super skinny now, or maybe they're all dead. I don't know. One of the two. Whatever's
No,
ironic and entertaining.
No one's literally going to check.
Somebody will. Somebody always does. And by the way, there was apparently a board game of the Police Academy television cartoon series produced in what country? Just throw out what country would produce a board game based on the Police Academy cartoon series? Just throw out a country.
Yugoslavia.
America?
No. Jim, last shot.
I don't know.
It's Germany. Come on.
You
Obviously,
got me.
it's Germany.
I would not have guessed German.
Ausbruch in Manhattan, otherwise known as Breakout in Manhattan.
Schmetterling!
Did you guys actually watch any of the episodes of the Robocop series? I feel like I watched an episode or two of it, and I had a couple of toys. Because again, there was toys.
The dangerous ED-260. Robocop. Armed with rapid repeat cap firing.
He's unstoppable.
And Robocop was even better because they had caps. Do you guys remember cap guns?
Yes.
Pop guns.
Oh, this is a whole separate topic, man.
No, it's connected because the Robocop toys were all cap guns. So Robocop had a little thing in the back of him that was, you could pull the thing down and it was a cap gun. It would pop.
Now there was the plastic ones and then there was the paper ones.
No, this is just the paper ones. The plastic one was like in like a 6-shooter, except it was actually like a 12-shooter or whatever the hell it was.
So I don't know. You guys may be too young to remember this, but there was a time in the mid 80s when if you walked into a store that had a sizable toy department, there might be an entire aisle of cap guns. There are Nerf guns now, but they weren't bright red and blue and green. They were all black and colored like metal. and they all looked like real guns.
God bless America.
Yeah, it looked like you walked into,
It realizes
a Terminator movie, and you were selecting which automatic weapon you wanted. I had
rifle.
I had a little submachine gun with a stock folded over, and it was
I
pretty.
believe
sweet.
that's a Mac 10.
So, and then a bunch of kids started getting shot, and then they stopped selling those.
I had a battery operated squirt gun that was an Uzi. It was like you just hold the trigger.
Well, I had at least one Uzi, maybe several.
Look,
I also had an Uzi squirt gun, but I had the cheap one. There was no battery operated, but the
longer one,
the clip came out. It was an extra water reservoir.
It's a magazine.
It was pretty. Thank you for correcting me.
I won't get into giving Jim shit about the numbers, clip in a magazine just because I was a unit armor. It's not a big deal. It's not like I would just say that to show off or anything. No, I like
whenever you want.
It was crazy. So like each Robocop, like it had a cap in the back. And so like you would hold Robocop up with his gun and you could pull the thing down and Robocop would be like pop, 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 pop. And it's like, wow, they were really training us to love fucking guns from an early age, weren't they?
So were the Robocop toys from the movie or the cartoon, or were there two different toy lines?
I'm not sure. I will check and you'll see it somewhere down over.
Probably two. Here. I mean, you can't make money off of just one as much as you can make off two.
But I don't think the Robocop series did super well. Yeah, the Robocop series only went 12 episodes. Oh no, there was another one. Holy cow. There was a Robocop Alpha Commando in 1989. Oh, that's way later. Sorry, there was a follow-up series, but it wasn't until 1998, not 1989.
I think they made two different sizes of. I'm not sure what age it was, but
recharge your action figure collection with talking and electronic Robocop in 3 action-packed sizes. Heat unbeatable.
Or what years it was specifically, but I remember them making a Robocop that was about the size of like the original G.I. Joe dolls. But I also remember them making like Robocop action figures, like the little G.I. Joe action figures that they made in the 80s.
Well, the Robocop action figures I have, they would have been bigger than G.I. Joe by probably like, so G.I. Joe action figures are what, like 3.5, 4 inches, something like that. And the Robocop would have been a little bigger. They would have been probably like maybe 6 inches. I'm pulling that number out of my ass, but no, they were cool figures. And like you could change out, because when Robocop 3 came out, like he did the switch thing where you could have like different things on. By the way, Robocop 3 kind of sucks. That was the one where they get down. Yeah, who cares?
Jetpack.
It has Rip Torn too, but I don't care.
Jetpack.
By the way, I'm just looking at some of the images. Like it shows Robocop with his helmet off, where you can see like his face like wired into the thing, and I feel like that's got to be disturbing for some people. It's like a face, but it's like wired in, and like I don't know.
They do that in the first one too.
Yeah, but I'm thinking this is the cartoon.
Oh,
I don't know.
Well, yeah,
that's weird.
Well, maybe they're just training and we get ready to become cybernetic organisms.
Well.
So I think you're right. I think they had toys for both, which kind of blows my mind.
I mean, it's the least surprising thing in the 80s that they would do separate. I mean, that's half the reason they came out with a Transformers movie and a G.I. Joe movie was just they come out with new figures.
Yeah, but they didn't have a live action G.I. Joe movie and like have live action G.I. Joe figures.
Yeah, not until when did the G.I. Joe movie come out? Was it late 90s, early 2000s? I can't even think.
2000,
like 2010.
Was it that? I don't know. It didn't matter. Nobody watched it.
A while.
No one watched it.
So next on our list, we have a character that you might have heard of, Superman.
Fights the never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way.
Nope.
Superman. Clark Kent from another planet. Never heard of him. Big deal.
He's an illegal alien.
I used to have a thing I would post that Superman is the ultimate enemy of the right wing because he's both a journalist and a immigrant.
And he can't be beaten up or stopped.
Right. By the way, the reason that is because he was created by immigrants.
And he's
So
trying to
imagine
bring
immigrants would probably want to feel that way.
harmony to the world. How dare he?
They were Jewish too, right?
Yes, they were. That's why if you want to really get into a fight amongst racist comic book fans, tell them that Superman is a Jewish immigrant and a journalist, and they will probably hate you because they have tiny little minds.
An illegal immigrant.
An illegal immigrant. He didn't immigrate. He didn't sign any papers.
He certainly did not. He violated the airspace of the United States.
Bypassed the wall altogether and just crashed right in.
Yeah.
So Alan Oppenheimer, who we've talked about, a bunch of times in different shows, he played Jonathan Kent in this series. I don't know, Jim, do you remember this version of Superman at all?
I do not. Also, I'm not a big Superman fan. I just don't remember it even being on.
So apparently it's got Wonder Woman pops in. This apparently is okay. So this takes into account. Do you remember? I guess John Byrne did a big rework of Superman in 1986, and this is sort of based off of that, I guess.
What's the animation style? I have not looked up the animation style. Do you feel like it's closer to the Batman in the 90s style with the huge shoulders?
No, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's that, but it is different. It is different than. So if you go back to your Super Friends and that type of thing from the early 80s and the 70s, it definitely seems different than that. And if you look at it was written by among the writers is Marv Wolfman, who is famously, the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics for about 35 minutes. I'm kidding. It was a couple months. And yeah,
he was one of the main architects of the DC reboot in '86, right? Wasn't he?
He probably. And by the way, when I say Marv Wolfman was only editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics for a little bit, that is not a slight against him. That is a slight more against Marvel Comics, because after who's the editor after Stan left, they'd gone through like 4 or 5 different editors over a fairly brief period of time. And Marv Wolfman was one of those people, and they all kind of just got shoved out until they brought in Jim Shooter, who that's a whole podcast in and of itself. But anyway, no, so it says it's the 3rd animated Superman series. Yeah, so I guess it's just following John Byrne's Superman. So if you like John Byrne's Superman, then you probably should watch this. And if you don't know anything about John Byrne's Superman, like apparently all of us, then you're just a dumb guy and should probably shut up.
I do know the replacement for Deadshot in the recent Suicide Squad movie. What's his name? Yes. He first appeared in this John Byrne run, like issue 9 or issue 8 or something like that. So I'm kind of wondering if he was in the cartoon.
I will.
I didn't read it because I didn't read anything Superman, but I know about it.
You didn't read anything super?
Nope.
Man,
it does not look like Bloodsport popped up in the series. In the.
I mean, you don't even have a copy of Death of Superman.
Ooh, I do.
I think everybody's issued one as an American citizen. You just get a copy of Death of Superman and X-Men #1. There's enough issues for everybody, I think.
So I actually read Death of Superman a couple of years ago, and wow, it was bad.
The last comic basically all splash pages, right?
I don't remember. I was just, by the time Superman died, I was like, good. Can we be over now? Oh no. There's a pre-funeral, a funeral, a post-funeral, and a
post-funeral interview.
Yeah.
And his death lasted for how long did his death last for? Was it like a year?
Not very long. And then he came back with like 5 people. So they could have a gajillion Superman series instead of just 5.
Not at all based on money, I'm sure.
Nope.
Okay, so this next one, I want to talk to Brandon about this because I feel like this is a show that he was into. And by the way, when I'm sort of looking into this show had a heck of a cast.
Yeah, don't ruin it.
And so it is The Completely Mental Misadventures of Ed Grimley. And Brandon, I'm led to believe you have seen the show on at least one occasion.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, it's based on an SNL character, and I never watched Saturday Night Live growing up. But I enjoyed this show. I thought it was legitimately funny. I don't know if I could say it was because of the way he moved or the way he talked or some combination or whatever. I just always thought it was funny, and I didn't even realize it was only 13 episodes till looking at it here. But yeah, I thought it was really good. And it does have quite a cast. I mean, Frank Welker was on there. Renee Auberjonois, who was Odo and Deep Space Nine. Whole bunch of other people you'd recognize if you saw their picture.
Catherine O'Hare.
Robert
sort of
Ito.
made famous more recently in Schitt's Creek. Jonathan Winters. John
Eugene
Flatter.
Levy was a guest at one point.
Oh, was he? Wow.
Yeah.
John Flaherty, who was played the vampire character. If you're a character, if you're a person from our generation, you remember him as the guy who called Happy Gilmore a jackass like 4 times in that movie. Dave Thomas, who pops up kind of all over the place.
Tina Turner was a guest,
of course.
It's pretty packed. 13 episodes.
Yeah, it is.
He had a little spike on his forehead.
Yeah.
It was good. It was funny. It was definitely unique. Like there wasn't any other cartoon like it.
It's sort of weird to see what catches on. Like I feel like a lot of entertainment is just kind of throwing things at a wall and seeing what sticks. And I don't feel like anybody would have like said, "Oh, that's going to be a cool show," or that's going to be something that's going to catch on. But it does with people. That's one of the things I feel like going back to all the shows that we haven't talked about over the course of this whole discussion. There's a million shows that people love that we've never heard of and never watched one episode of. And for some people, that show is like the greatest thing. I mean, there's people that like Thundar the Barbarian, which I can't even conceive of.
Exactly. Well, I was just going to bring that up. Like, you loved Ed Grimley, and it was on for 13 episodes. I love Thundar, and it was on for like 24 or 26. And then there's cartoons that I haven't even heard of that are on the list that had like 80 episodes.
Well, and we're going to talk about one very soon that I love that I don't know if any of you guys have even seen. So
yeah, 13 episodes. I'm surprised I even caught it, but
well, that's the weird thing about it too, because like for you, 13 episodes was like that was probably a whole season, and for a season, that's like 1/12 of your whole growing up process was that, and so that's a huge deal.
Yeah, I would have been now. I would have been 12 at that point.
Like I could watch a show the last 4 seasons, and I could forget about a year later. But when you're growing up and you watch one season that's great, it's like you could remember that show for the rest of your life, and do. So Jim, you did not watch the show, is that correct?
No. I know about it Grimley.
There was a live action show too, wasn't there? Yes. Or was it just Saturday Night Live?
I thought it was just Saturday Night Live.
I thought it was just Saturday Night Live, but I don't.
Okay.
Frank Welker played his rat named Sheldon.
I saw the name was Sheldon. I didn't know what that character was. I can't believe Catherine O'Hare was on that. By the way, Catherine O'Hare was in a great movie with Michael Keaton called
Beetlejuice.
Which they made a cartoon about, which we're going to talk about now.
Beetlejuice. Oh, I did it.
I did the thing.
I think Beetlejuice was so. How do you guys feel about Tim Burton? Because I have very mixed feelings about him as a creator. I think some of his stuff is great, and I think a lot of his stuff is not great at all.
Go ahead, Cam.
He has a vision. He's a one-trick pony, though.
He's an auteur, for better or worse.
I don't care for his stuff very much. Some of it I did like Beetlejuice. I kind of appreciate that he has a style and a vision, and he's not afraid to go with it. It's what he likes. It's how he sees things, and it's not like everybody else's vision. So go for it.
Well, he has a very distinctive visual style, and I mean, you're not going to not notice that's a Tim Burton movie. You know, if you're watching a Tim Burton movie, you're not going to be like, "Is that Michael Bay?" No, you're going to know that's Tim Burton.
I want to see boobs and explosions.
Right. So I love Beetlejuice the movie. I thought it was just fantastic. It's got a great cast, Catherine O'Hara, and when the movie the television show came out in 80. Oh God, we're in 89 now. Sorry. So the film came out in 88, and then the cartoon came out a year later. Now this is another one. I think Beetlejuice the movie was definitely for an adult audience, but it also wasn't particularly adult themed. In like there wasn't a bunch of nudity or violence or any of that type of thing. Well, I guess you can sort of see some of the stuff was, but you can see this is very easy to sort of tone down to a more children's audience. And I just thought it was great. I thought they could do a million things with animation because like Beetlejuice has such potential. But obviously in the 80s, they didn't have, maybe we still don't have the ability to show some of the stuff that he could do with the special effects that they had. And the cartoon can show all that. I mean, there's just these really vast worlds. And, you know, people probably get tired of me saying it, but the shows that I like the best were the ones that were the best at world building. And Beetlejuice was great at world building. There's just this, I mean, he's dead. They're in the land of the dead, so they can go anywhere. And the sandworms and like I don't know, he's great. And I'm just upset that Catherine O'Hara didn't reprise her role as the Lydia Dietz's mother in it, but she didn't.
The sandworms in the cartoon show weren't nearly as ominous as the ones in the movie.
Yeah, they were. Well, everything it was more, you might call it cartoonish,
cutified. Where did the sandworms come from? From 1984 Dune or 2021 Dune?
Oh, now see, if Beetlejuice had a yell gun, that would make a whole lot more sense.
You know, given Tim Burton, I'll bet he probably would be more amenable to David Lynch than he would have been to the book. So I would guess that probably came from the David Lynch movie. Except he wanted to make them black and white striped and with a mouth that comes out of a mouth, comes out of a mouth.
I don't know that they're related, but it does make me wonder if they ever thought about making Sweeney Todd into a Saturday morning kids cartoon.
That would be tough.
I will say that
his whole modus operandi is that he murders people. So
yes,
the thing that I remember most that appealed to me on the Beetlejuice cartoon was all the puns. Like they had a lot of puns.
I think there's an archetype of like a trickster character, you know, like Loki, or you know, I mean, it's a million other characters like that. Just like the person who's like sort of the court jester of a narrative. And I think in Beetlejuice that character was great, especially in the comic book, or excuse me, in the cartoon show. And I thought he was a blast. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a pretty decent show.
And I can't remember the theme song. I remember liking the theme song, but I haven't watched the theme recently. No, that's the Simpsons.
It's not the Simpsons.
It all turns into a Simpsons mashup in the end.
Okay, I think you're actually pretty close to it. So anybody else have anything else to say about Beetlejuice other than the fact that I love that show? That's like, honestly, the more I think back on it, I think Beetlejuice was one of my favorite cartoons that era. Like Beetlejuice and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are like maybe my two favorite cartoons from the era.
Wow.
Controversial as that might be.
The girl was pretty good too. She didn't really take a backseat on the show a whole lot either.
Yeah. I thought she was very good.
Winona Ryder,
Lydia
stand-in, whatever.
Dietz.
Yeah.
Next is one which is, I wish I had more to say about, because they're going to be doing a movie about this. They announced a movie for I think later this year. The trailer just came out, and that is Chippendale's Rescue Rangers. Another movie or cartoon where they really went for a good theme. Like they had a plan for a theme song.
Honestly, one of the most memorable themes, I think.
I still would put DuckTales above it, but that's just me. That's
I
what
wanted them to sing the theme song
Magamoo shells.
You have to do the Chippendales.
Rescue Rangers.
I like the original Rescue Rangers.
What were they?
Or Chippendale. I don't know. They were mice.
No, you're thinking of the Rescuers.
Aren't they Rescue Rangers too?
I don't think so. I think there was the Rescuers.
They're not
What did
Rangers.
they
they're just
rescue from?
rescuers.
They rescued,
I
I don't know,
know
garbage.
there
Or
was
something. I don't know. It was-
That's not Rescue Rangers.
they didn't range. They just
Chippendale
rescued.
Rescue Rangers.
And they just constantly rescued the same person in the same spot.
They didn't
Over
go
and
out. They
over.
were just like, we're going to rescue anybody
Rescue
right
Rangers.
here.
Get back in the hole, Tim. You have to be rescued again tomorrow.
By the way, Peter Cullen did Monterey Jack, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
The
Did
cheese.
you guys watch the new trailer for the movie?
I had no idea there was a movie.
It's really weird. Like one of them is animated, one of them is new animated.
You look different. Hey, it's no secret I had the CGI surgery done.
What?
Yeah, it's really strange.
You're making my
hold on.
brain hurt.
Here, just look it up real quick. Look up the image. It's really, it's kind of bizarre.
Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it.
I just accidentally typed in just Chippendales and got a very different set of pictures.
Whoa. That's hysterical. Yeah, it's disturbing.
Wait, that's your.
Nagada. This
Yeah, it's
aggression
strange,
cannot
right?
stand, Gail.
I feel like I'm going to give that the benefit of the doubt before I see it. I'll say, what was the kind of cheese that Monterey Jack liked? Wasn't it brie? I think that was the one that like would drive him nuts.
Monterey Jack.
No, that's his name. Like his favorite cheese, I think it's brie.
It's weird.
No idea. Yeah, that kind of dual animated and modern is kind of jarring on the brain.
Yeah, it's a strange, isn't it? I kind of like it. I think it's, I don't know. I feel like, what if David Lynch directed that movie? I think that would work.
You know he didn't.
I know.
He's not getting anywhere near.
You
any
could
of
put
those.
Monterey Jack in a bunch of dispensers.
He's like, ah!
Squeeze.
I don't think we have anything else to say about Chippendale's Rescue Rangers.
Except that we all like cheese.
Oh man,
I would
love
take a
Monterey
big hunk
Jack.
of Parmesan right now.
wait, hold on. We pause everything. So Jim, we talk about cheese, and the first thing you think is Parmesan.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's like a guy comes into a bar and he's like, "I really love beer. Do you got any Budweiser?"
You're talking
Parmesan
about
is
Parmesan has
fantastic.
a really strong taste. It's not like it asked for American.
There used to be a focaccia bread at Hy-Vee that was just Asiago on it. Oh, God, that was good.
Why don't you go focaccia yourself?
Like gorgonzola.
By the way, I love
like,
Parmesan. The one thing that I found is like, to me, when I was growing up, like Parmesan was just that shit that comes in the green can. And then I didn't realize, like, no, it's an actual like cheese. Like you can get Parmesan cheese. And I was like,
very hard, very basic cheese.
what's the one that's kind of like, is Asiago like Parmesan? Where it's like kind of like that tangy, like kind of a tangy cheese.
Ours-
Yeah, it's Asiago. Yep.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
So I still like the stuff in the green jar too.
No, well, I just actually use some like
I'll
Do you
put,
like the
I'll put half of
Andrea
that in a
gets-
bowl of spaghetti.
Andrea gets kind of mad at me. I put it on almost everything. She's like, "You're changing the flavors." I'm like, "Well, but it's Parmesan."
you
You know,
shouldn't put it on a Sunday.
as someone who is a culinary school dropout, it is a little insulting when you make a meal and then somebody immediately starts putting salt and pepper on something or whatever before they even try it. Don't start putting stuff on it before they even trying it. After someone cooked it for you, at least taste it first. It's insulting.
I remember my platoon sergeant, and he would like he would bring his eggs back at the defect, and he would just be like, And you're just like, it's not even food anymore. It's just salt with some eggs.
I like hot sauce on my eggs. Actually, eggs rancheros would be really good. A little chorizo.
Would you taste your eggs before you put hot sauce on them, or would you just put hot sauce on them?
Well, I would visually inspect my eggs because I would ask for over easy, and I know what that looks like.
Just what I thought.
But if you
respecting the chef,
you need to test it.
I think we should get back on topic.
All right.
So the next one, again, one that I think is interesting given where we are right now, is the Karate Kid cartoon show. Karate Kid! Which, interestingly enough, had Pat Morita doing the voice for Mr. Miyagi, which is interesting. It also had James Avery, famously of either, I feel like James Avery, people know him either from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles as Shredder. And I don't know. He's great in both of those things. So the Karate Kid stuff, have you guys watched the new stuff? Since I haven't seen the series. I don't know if you guys seen the series. Have you guys watched the Cobra Kai?
Yeah. I have not. One of my boys says it's a must see, and the other one says it's garbage.
It is both.
I liked it.
You know, I actually think it kind of is both, because I really liked it, but I understand that if you're not interested in it, you're not going to like it. I think you're going to have to be into that thing.
I think one of the things I really like to hand credit out to Cobra Kai for is they do not do simple black and white bad guys. Even their bad guys have storyline, they have development, they have characters who are the way they are for reasons. And it's a very anime thing to do, but in American television, it's kind of unique.
I think so. I went into this last season. Brandon, are you all caught up?
Yeah.
I went into this last season thinking I really want this to be the last season because I like it, but I'm kind of getting done with it. And after they finished the series, I was like, okay, we can do one more, because I thought they ended it really well. And I thought, and again, we're not going to do spoilers on that. We could do a whole Cobra Kai thing, I think, which I would be more than happy to talk about the show. I really feel like they built up the character that they brought in for the new season. They developed in a very interesting and different way. I feel like what's his name? Johnny's son is kind of developing. You sort of expect him to be one thing, and I think he's kind of not that.
He finally had some character growth.
Right.
He's been character flat for the past couple seasons.
Right. I think that's true. But in this season, he definitely he's sort of like figuring things out on his own, which is sort of realistic. That is what happens. You know, you sort of hit that age where you kind of have to figure life out on your own. And I think that's what he's kind of doing.
He reminds me of like Randy from Home Improvement. Like you're kind of rooting for the kid, but at the same time, you're not sure what direction he's going.
Well, but then like Tori had some growth, you know, you could see kind of the reason she is the way she is. It's not just this, oh, they're evil. They're not Skeletor. They're not just evil because they're evil and they cackle whenever somebody stubs a toe or something. There's reasons behind the things they do.
Well, I think even Kreese, and that's one.
Yes.
Spoiler: Kreese isn't in the first season. He's in all the other seasons. Spoiler alert: Kreese comes in season 2. Even Kreese is not like, he's not the Omega. He's not. He sort of is exposed as being a person who's sort of he's enveloped by this rage that he has, and this sort of this. You know, he's blinded by it in many ways. And again, I think his stuff is revealed so well in the new season. Kreese might be my favorite character of this last season, actually.
Well, and there's kind of two worldviews in it, and Johnny and Daniel kind of represent the archetypes of those two worldviews. Like Johnny, I mean, he does it several times where you see like they'll talk about a movie and he's what? No, he was the bad guy. He wasn't the good guy. Like they see things fundamentally different. And right. The people that influence their lives also see things different, but he's starting to realize that it's not, I don't know. It's good character development, if nothing else.
Well, I think it sort of reflects, a lot of our experiences in the 1980s growing up, is that we all kind of see ourselves as either the heroes or at least not the villains of our own stories. But if we were to see our stories from a different perspective, we might be like, oh, wait a minute. And I think it's great at that. It's not, the show isn't perfectly directed or acted or written. There's flaws in it. I'm not going to say it's my favorite show ever, but I definitely do think it brings a lot of interesting things to the table. It brings a lot of interesting perspectives to the table, which you can't say about a lot of shows.
Yeah.
It's weird because it is formulaic in a lot of ways, but at the base, it's not formulaic. The characters aren't formulaic. I think sometimes the storylines are a little bit.
And it did feel like the second and third season kind of felt like they weren't sure what they wanted to do. But it definitely felt more like they had a plan.
We are far afield, but I have to ask this because I'm curious.
I was going to say, what 80s cartoon are we talking about?
Jim, you just hush. You're coming back, and we're going to talk about this even more. But so, Brandon, do you feel that season 4 was better than seasons 2 and 3 then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I very much think so too. Anyway, that being said, you should probably watch the Karate Kid cartoon. Or not.
But I didn't ever watch the cartoon.
Neither did I. I just want to talk about Cobra Kai because I love those characters.
Fine, fuck it. Let's just talk about Cobra Kai then.
We will.
The animation looks like...
Done talking about these cartoons. Let's talk about Cobra Kai.
We're going to wait until Jim has finished the series.
No.
Okay, so...
Never.
Jim, do you have any final thoughts on the Karate Kid cartoon that you never watched?
I looked at some of the animation. It looks like it's made for an afternoon special, not for like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Yeah, I kind of got that too. But it had Pat Morita.
Right.
Who Pat Morita, he's an interesting cat. I really get the impression that he and Ralph Macchio developed a personal bond after making Karate Kid. Like they really had a very deep friendship, which is nice to see. All right, that being said, we are going to move into the final 2 series that we're going to talk about, both of which are ones that I really liked a lot and are kind of closely interlinked, which is The Legend of Zelda.
This is the Triforce of Wisdom, Link. The evil wizard Ganon has the Triforce of Power.
And the Super Mario Brothers Super Show.
Hey, paisanos, it's the Super Mario Brothers Super Show!
Please tell me that somebody else watched this because I love both of these.
I haven't seen either.
I'm going to talk more about the Super Mario Brothers Super Show because it actually had Legend of Zelda on it. One of the things that I think is interesting as a sort of a fan of the 1980s NES, boom. The first Nintendo game that the second Nintendo game that I got was The Legend of Zelda. And I loved it, and I never beat it because I'm not good at video games.
What was the first one you got?
Super Mario Brothers. Kale, can you please stop that? Thank you.
I've heard the newest Zelda on the Switch is supposed to be really good. I've looked up a couple of games on the Switch because we have one. So that one is supposed to be really highly rated.
I don't know. I feel like they got Link right because Link is like a brat. He's like a kind of an asshole. And I think that's how he should be. I feel like some people kind of want to make him as more like a archetype hero, but he's kind of he's kind of an asshole and he's kind of a shitty hero in some ways. And I thought that, Legend of Zelda sort of put that across. Super Mario Brothers Super Show was Captain Lou Albano and Danny Wells. And they sort of did this wraparound show where they would do live action stuff around these cartoons of Link and of the Super Mario Brothers little vignettes. And I just thought they were fun because it's like Captain Lou Albano. And he shaved off his goatee, which he had on for wrestling for 1,000 years. We talked about Captain Lou. We were talking about Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling show. So he shaved off his goatee and actually grew out a handlebar mustache for the show. And they even came up with a rap. And they had a Super Mario dance, which was great.
Do the Mario, swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario.
Mario, take one step, and then again.
And when they did the cartoons, Captain Lou and Danny Wells would actually do the voice for Mario and Luigi, and it was a lot of fun. And they had a lot of great guests too. Some of their guests include Harry Blackstone. You guys remember him?
No.
Harry Blackstone was one of the most famous musicians of like the 1970s, 1980s. He was like the, just a real famous magician. Patrick Dempsey.
We haven't heard.
Elvira, Nicole Eggert, Larry Gelman, Ernie Hudson, Cyndi Lauper, Sergeant Slaughter, Moon Zappa, and Roddy Piper were all.
I've heard of all those people except for that first guy you mentioned.
Who?
Some magician.
Yeah, Harry Blackstone. He's a magician. He was famous at the time.
Would anybody invite Sergeant Slaughter onto anything after he ruined G.I. Joe?
Well, we clearly disagree on a fair amount of things, but yes, they would.
He made me root for Serpentor. Awful.
Serpentor was just the worst villain.
Cobra!
Because he was part Sergeant Slaughter.
It's funny because Serpentor was bad, but in a way he was very good because he was so goofy. He was like, I feel like he is like the John Waters villain on G.I. Joe. Just like a goofy, over the top, insano thing. Like I want to see like a John Waters Serpentor movie. I think that would be really entertaining. And so I'll allow it, is what I'm saying. I think especially the thing with Legend of Zelda, the thing that gets me is like, that's a really interesting story. And they've never really captured it anywhere sort of accurately outside of the video games. And I feel like on the Legend of Zelda cartoon, which again, I mentioned it here because it was a section of the Super Mario Brothers Super Show, they kind of got him. I feel like they got the character pretty well. He was just like kind of a snarky douchebag, for lack of a better term.
My hero.
We know. Anyway, that is the last cartoon I have on my list to talk about in the 1990s. Once again, we thought about talking about the Simpsons. We're not going to talk about the Simpsons for a variety of reasons. Maybe we'll talk about them when we ask Caleb to recite all of the 1980s cartoon themes that he cannot seem to remember, but we won't do that right now. I don't know. What are you guys' final thoughts on this? What do you bring out of this? What characters kind of come to mind? What things do you kind of keep from those cartoon shows in the 1980s? Jim, why don't you start us off?
So, I will say that if you didn't watch 1980s cartoons, there's a lot of cartoons, even ones that were only on for a year or half a year, that are really worth watching. I think they're incredibly entertaining. I would watch them now. I watch them with my kids. I think there's just a lot of good stuff.
And I think a lot of it's pretty safe for kids. I mean, again, maybe there's some deeper messages about the military industrial complex, or you should respect police, or
terrorism.
Things like, yeah, exactly. But overall, they're not like super controversial or any of that. I think you can see your kid in front of most of those.
Environmental disasters.
I'm not familiar with that cartoon.
Right.
Like when somebody throws a battleship at the moon. I hate it when that.
Don't throw battleships at the moon.
Bad things can happen when you do that.
Son of a
Not
bitch.
really. The moon's way bigger than a battleship.
It's at least twice the size of a battleship.
Agreed.
Maybe like 2.5 times. Brandon, what do you come away from the 1980s cartoon stuff with? Because like I know for us, like we talked about cartoon stuff a lot when we were kids, when we were growing up, and yeah.
Well, I have no interest in nostalgia. Like I don't tread a lot in the past. I don't much care about it. This has kind of had the opposite effect for me. It has purged all this stuff from me. I can now happily forget about all the 80s cartoons forever and never have to think about it ever again. That'd be fine. Most of my childhood can go that way as far as that goes. I mean, I don't need any of those memories anyway. So
Kurt Vonnegut was talking about Armistice Day versus Veterans Day, and he talked about picking up things and holding onto some things and throwing some over your shoulder and forgetting about them. And I think it's important to do both. You know, you go back and you look at some of this stuff, and some of this stuff is just sort of fluff, and you can throw that over your shoulder. And the stuff that you rewatch and you like, and you can just put that in your pocket and hold on to it. And it's up to you to decide which is which. So I think it's important to do both. Kale, what do you come out of the 1980s with other than anxiety and alcoholism?
God damn it.
And Parmesan.
And Parmesan.
Parmesan. No,
and too much salt and pepper.
I feel like we've covered a lot of shows that I either had an inkling at or a full-fledged addiction to at some point, and all of them were a fun trip down memory lane. But like Brandon said, I'm ready to move on to other things.
I think if we ever have a merch shop, we should have a t-shirt that says I survived the 80s and all I got was Parmesan and anxiety.
And a little alcoholism. Yeah, no, I think the one thing that I come out of it with, and this is something that I see in a lot of fandoms, and whether this is 80s cartoons or comic books or anything, like what you like, but understand that other people don't like that, and understand that you can both be right. And
just get over your fucking self.
Well, yeah, but also you can like things. I mean, it's all right if you like some, forgotten cartoon that nobody has ever heard of. Like, I don't know, Jim, can you think of one?
Beetlejuice.
That's the one. Go ahead and like that, but also don't keep in mind that other people have to also like that to make your like of that thing valid. You could be the only one to like a thing and just sit there and like that thing, and that's fine.
Like if you're the only person in the world that likes Thundar the Barbarian.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, there's almost 8 billion people on the planet. You're almost certainly not the only one that likes it. You could find a community of people that will share in your enthusiasm for whatever off the wall furry type of stuff you like. I mean, you can find it anywhere.
I mean, I agree. There has to be at least 2 or 3 other people that like Thundar the Barbarian.
Exactly.
And the Jim can talk with and have a great conversations with.
Ookla furries. That's.
And with that being said, I think we're about done giving Jim shit this week. So I just want to thank everybody for watching and checking out all this 80s stuff. And again, there's a lot of stuff I think that has value here, and there's some that doesn't. And I think you have to, sort of make your own determination. But it's definitely worth checking out because, again, most of the shit's free on YouTube. So check it out.
Is. You can find almost anything.
Watch one episode of everything we've watched on YouTube, and you'll find something you like.
And if it's not free, I probably have a DVD of it somewhere.
I'll send everybody who subscribes Jim's home address so they can go over there and pick it up, and it'll be very easy. That being said, I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy the 80s or don't enjoy the 80s. It's fine either way. Have a good drink and have a good day.
See you, everybody.
To a free Ukraine.